June 8, 1942, 23:47 hours. Southern Front, near the Don River. The engine coughs once, then dies. Silence. Cold air rushes past the struts of the Polikarpov Po-2. Canvas wings tremble. The smell of oil lingers in the cockpit. Below, a German field camp glows in faint amber pools of lamplight. Cigarette embers burn like scattered fireflies. A sentry shifts his Mauser on his shoulder, boots crunching frost-hardened dirt. Up here, there is only wind. Senior Lieutenant Yevdokia Brashansky's pilots have done this before. Cut the throttle. Let gravity take over. Glide. The biplane becomes a shadow. Inside the rear cockpit, the navigator counts under her breath. One hand grips the release lever. The other steadies a map marked in grease pencil. Anti-aircraft cruise down below skin the sky, expecting the growl of engines. They hear nothing. Then it comes. A soft rushing sound, like fabric tearing. The Germans will later call it Hexenbesen, a witch's broom. Bombs slip free. For small, FAB-50s tumble through darkness. No warning siren. No engine note. Just falling steel. The first explosion rips through a supply truck. The second shatters a tent line. A third ignites stacked ammunition crates. Fire blooms upward in violent orange columns. Men scream. An MG-34 clatters uselessly toward the sky. And above it all, the Po-2 is already banking away, engine still silent. Only when they are miles clear does the pilot push the throttle forward. The Shvetsov radio sputters back to life with a defiant snarl. In the German command post, a Hauptmann slams his fist against a field table. It was War das. He knows what it was. The women, the so-called sewing machines. For weeks, officers of the Wehrmacht have mocked the Soviet 588th Night Bomber Regiment. Wooden aircraft, open cockpits, no armor, no radios, no parachutes. Relics from another era. They had expected modern war. Messerschmitts, Stukas, steel. Instead, they face ghosts. You can almost feel the disbelief spreading through the ranks. How could these fragile biplanes slip through searchlights and 20mm flak batteries? How could such primitive machines strike with this precision? The answer is in the darkness. The 588 flies low, treetop low, sometimes barely 200 feet above the ground. They navigate by river bends, by railway lines, by the faint glimmer of moonlight on water. Their mechanics work by lantern light, patching bullet holes with fabric and glue. Their hands bleed from cold metal struts. Still they prepare the next sortie. Each crew will fly 8, sometimes 10 missions a night. No heaters, no armor plating. Frost forms on goggles. Fingers stiffen around control sticks. The wind cuts like glass at altitude, but the Germans are colder, because now they wait for the silence. In the command tent, the Hauptmann orders additional searchlights deployed, more flak-reeling guns, triple patrols. The laughter from weeks ago is gone, replaced by something tighter. Anxiety. Across the front, reports multiply. Ammunition dumps destroyed. Fuel depots burning. Sleep shattered night after night. The psychological toll spreads faster than the physical damage. A lieutenant writes in his diary, "They come without engines, without warning. You do not see them. You only hear the whisper." Back at the forward Soviet airstrip, the Po-2 rolls to a stop in a cloud of dust. The navigator climbs down first, boots hitting earth hard. Ground crew rush forward, already rearming the racks. There is no applause, no speeches, just urgency. Another target waits. Major Brashansky scans the sky. She knows the Germans are adjusting. Searchlight patterns have shifted. Flak bursts are tighter now. Interceptors have been scrambled on previous nights. Bf 110 night fighters hunting slow prey. The regiment cannot outrun them, so they will outthink them. 3 aircraft per strike. 2 draw fire. 1 glides in silent. It is a dance of deception, repetition, and nerve. Inside one tent, a young pilot traces her finger along a photograph tucked inside her flight jacket. She is barely 20. University student once. Now a lieutenant. Her braids are tied back tight. Her jaw is set. They mocked them, called them toys. Tonight, The toys burn supply lines. The mechanics finish loading. The pilot swings back into the cockpit. Engine sputters alive again. One by one, the Po-2s roll toward the strip, their silhouette skeletal against the moonlight. From the German perimeter, a flare suddenly streaks upward. White light floods the sky. And somewhere beyond the tree line, the distinct growl of a Daimler-Benz engine cuts through the night. A Messerschmitt is hunting. The next sortie will not be so simple. June 9, 1942, 018 hours. Airspace above the Don Band. The flare's white glare hangs in the sky, like an artificial moon. Oberleutnant Carl Fischer banks his Messerschmitt Bf 110 hard to port. Twin Daimler-Benz engines roaring in disciplined harmony. His radar operator leans over the FUG-2 O2 Liechtenstein set. Green cathode flickering weak returns. The signal is faint. Low altitude. Slow. Too slow for a normal aircraft. Fischer narrows his eyes and scans below the flare's dying light. At first he sees nothing but smoke drifting from the burning camp. Then, for a fraction of a second, movement. A shadow crossing the tree line. There, the operator mutters. Fischer pushes the nose down. The Bf 110 dives, airframe shuddering as speed builds. 20mm MGFF cannons are armed. A squeeze of the trigger will tear wood and canvas apart like paper. Below, Lieutenant Irina Sabrova feels it before she hears it. The change in air pressure, the instinctive tightening in her chest. She risks a glance upward. A shape eclipses the stars. Fighter, her navigator shouts over the wind. There is no time for fear, only calculation. The Po-2 cannot outrun a Messerschmitt. Its maximum speed barely exceeds 150 kilometers per hour. It cannot climb away. It has no defensive guns. It survives by being beneath contempt. Not tonight. Sabrova shoves the control stick forward and drops lower, skimming treetops so closely that leaves snap against the struts. The engine strains. She kills it again. Silence swallows them. The sudden quiet is disorienting. The Po-2 becomes a glider once more, vanishing into darkness just as Fischer fires. Tracers rip through empty sky. Fischer curses and pulls up sharply. The target disappeared. No explosion. No debris. His radar shows nothing but ground clutter. Where did she go? The operator adjusts the gain, frustration mounting. The biplane is too slow, too small. It blends into the earth. Below, Sabrova and her navigator hold their breath as the Messerschmitt roars past, its slipstream rocking the fragile wings. The wooden frame creaks, but holds. They are alive. For now, across the sector, two more Po-2 crews execute the same maneuver. Engines cut, glide, bomb, restart. The rhythm becomes mechanical, precise. Each crew knows her role. Within the trio formation, one draws the searchlights. Another absorbs the flak. The third kills the target. German anti-aircraft batteries open up in blind fury. 20mm and 37mm shells burst in jagged orange blossoms. The sky fills with shrapnel arcs. Yet the very slowness of the Po-2 confuses the gunners. They are trained to lead fast targets, to calculate speed and trajectory. These aircraft crawl. Shots overshoot. In a field hospital tent, a wounded Gefreiter clutches his bandaged arm as another explosion rocks the perimeter. The night offers no rest. Sleep has become a memory. Every rustle of wind sounds like wings. Fear spreads differently at night. It seeps. Back in the air, Fischer circles again, throttling back to reduce his own silhouette against the sky. He switches tactics. If they glide, he will wait for the engine restart. Minutes stretch thin. Then he hears it. A sputter. Brief. To starboard. He rolls and fires instinctively. This time the tracers connect. Canvas ignites in a flash of orange. The Po-2 lurches violently. Inside the burning cockpit, Junior Lieutenant Nina Raspopova feels heat surge across her legs. Flames lick along the wing root. Smoke blinds her. Her navigator screams but continues clutching the map. There is no parachute, only a field below. Raspopova forces a nose down, guiding the dying aircraft toward an open stretch beyond the German lines. The landing is brutal, with splinters. The undercarriage collapses. but the fire snuffs itself in the damp earth. Both women crawl free, coughing, shaking, alive. Behind them, Fisher sees no explosion, no confirmed kill, just darkness swallowing wreckage. He pounds a throttle in frustration. These women refuse to die cleanly. On the ground, German officers issue new directives before dawn. Increase night fighter patrols. Install additional Würzburg radar sets. Offer Iron Cross recommendations to any pilot who downs one of the witches. The propaganda machine shifts tone. No longer ridicule. Now respect laced with hatred. At the Soviet strip, mechanics work frantically around the clock. Bullet holes are stitched shut. Damaged struts replaced. Raspopova and her navigator return by truck at sunrise, faces blackened with soot. No one embraces them. Instead, the regimental adjutant hands them fresh flight assignments. Tonight, they fly again, because the offensive toward the Caucasus demands disruption. German fuel must burn before it reaches panzers. Ammunition must vanish before artillery barges. The 588 understands the stakes, and so does Fisher. He stands beside his Messerschmitt at first light, staring at fresh scorch marks along one wing from near-ground fire. His mechanic salutes nervously. "Sir, they're only biplanes." Fisher exhales slowly. "No," he replies, "they are not." Far across the front, as the sun rises red through drifting smoke, orders arrive at regimental headquarters. A new target, heavier defenses, a railway junction feeding the entire southern push. And tonight, the witches will fly straight into it. June 10th, 1942, 22:56 hours. Railway hub outside Salsk, southern Russia. Coal smoke hangs low over the tracks. Steam hisses from idling locomotives. Freight cars stretch in long black lines beneath dim lamps. Flat cars carry fuel drums. Boxcars hold artillery shells bound for the Caucasus front. Wehrmacht sentries pace beside the rails, boots striking gravel in steady rhythm. Inside the junction command office, a Feldwebel studies a timetable under a shaded lamp. The southern offensive depends on this artery. Every train matters. Above them, the sky looks empty. 2 kilometers away, engines idle along a dirt strip carved from steppe grass. The Polikarpov Po-2s line up wingtip to wingtip, their wooden frames pale in moonlight. Major Yevdokia Brashanskia walks the row, speaking quietly to each crew. No speeches, just coordinates. Wind speed, flak placements reported from the previous night. Target priority, fuel wagons first, ammunition second, locomotives last. Disruption before destruction. Lieutenant Irina Sabrova tightens the strap of her leather helmet. Beside her, Navigator Vera Balik checks bomb shackles one final time. For FAB-50s hang beneath the lower wings, dull metal against canvas. They know this junction will not be lightly defended. German command has reinforced it with 37mm flak 36 guns and multiple searchlight batteries. A Würzburg radar set was installed 3 days ago. Night fighters are on standby at a nearby Luftwaffe field. The witches are expected. Engines start one by one, coughing into life. The Shvetsov M, 11 radials settle into uneven rhythm. The first trio rolls forward, wheels bouncing over ruts before lifting into darkness. The second trio follows. Then Sabrova's group. Climb is shallow, speed modest. They skim beneath cloud, cover at barely 500 meters. The land below becomes a patchwork of fields and shadowed farmhouses. A river glints silver to the west, serving as their guide. No radio chatter. Each crew navigates alone. As they approach the junction, searchlights ignite without warning. White beams sweep across the sky in mechanical arcs. The Germans are alert tonight. A flare bursts above the rail yard, bathing locomotives in stark brilliance. Anti-aircraft gunners pivot skyward. The first Po-2 dives. Flak erupts immediately. Shells detonate with concussive cracks. Black bursts crowding the air. Tracers stitch red lines upward. The lead aircraft jinks left and right, absurdly slow yet strangely elusive. Sabrova watches the pattern. 2 searchlights track the decoy. A third hunts independently. She signals to Balik with a sharp nod. Now, throttle back. Engine cut. Silence returns like a held breath. The Po-2 glides downward, descending in a shallow arc toward the far edge of the rail yard. Without engine vibration, the aircraft feels almost weightless. Only wind hums along the struts. Below, German gunners remain focused on the first trio. Balik counts distance using landmarks, a water tower, a signal gantry, the shadow of stacked fuel drums. Ready, she whispers. Sabrova steadies the glide path. Release. The first bomb drops cleanly, vanishing into darkness. A heartbeat later, a violent bloom of fire erupts along the fuel wagons. The second bomb follows, striking closer to the locomotive line. Flames leap skyward, igniting spilled diesel. Black smoke mushrooms upward in seconds. Chaos detonates across the junction. Whistles scream. Soldiers scatter. A locomotive engineer attempts to reverse his engine, but another blast shatters the tracks ahead. Ammunition crates ignite in a chain reaction, explosions snapping like giant rifle shots. Searchlights break formation, swinging wildly. Too late. Sabrova restarts the engine. The radio sputters loudly in contrast to the silence that preceded it. She banks low over the outer perimeter, skimming so close to the ground that the wheels nearly brush grass tops. Behind her, another trio repeats the tactic. Engines cut, glide, bomb, escape. The rail yard becomes an inferno. Inside the command office, the Feldwebel dies beneath his desk as windows implode. Timetables scatter like white birds. He hears the shriek of falling metal and realizes the junction is no longer a secure artery. It is a target painted in flame. High above, Oberleutnant Karl Fischer receives a scramble order. His Bf-110 launches within minutes, climbing towards smoke columns visible even in darkness. He grits his teeth. Tonight, he intends a kill. Radar picks up faint echoes at low altitude. Multiple contacts. Slow. He descends cautiously, scanning for engine flashes. Then he sees one. A Po-2 climbing slightly after its bombing run, silhouette framed against burning fuel cars. Fisher fires a short burst. The rounds pass ahead. Too much lead. He adjusts and fires again. This time splinters tear through the upper wing. The aircraft wobbles, but does not fall. Instead, it dives straight into the smoke column, rising from the yard. Fisher hesitates only a second before following. Inside the smoke, visibility collapses. Soot and embers swirl against his canopy. Instruments flicker. The radar operator shouts distorted readings. Suddenly, the Po-2 vanishes again, swallowed by its own destruction. Fisher pulls up sharply, emerging above the smoke with empty guns and rising fury. Below him, the rail yard burns uncontrollably. Fuel wagons explode one after another, shockwaves rippling across the steppe. Sabrova and Balik level out miles away, breathing hard but steady. Behind them, the glow of fire stains the horizon orange. Mission accomplished. For now. But as they approach their strip, distant engine noise grows louder from the east. More fighters. And the night is only half over. June 10th, 1942. 23:41 hours. Eastern approaches to Salsk. The horizon still burns behind them. Lieutenant Irina Sabrova keeps the Polikarpov Po-2 level at treetop height, the Shvetsov M11 engine vibrating through the wooden frame. Smoke from the rail yard drifts eastward, trailing like a wounded animal across the sky. For a moment, there is only the steady hum of the engine and the cold rush of night air against her goggles. Then she hears it, a deeper note, faster, hunting. Vera Balik twists in her seat, scanning the darkness. Fighters, she says, voice tight but controlled. Three shapes materialize against the stars, descending in shallow arcs. Messerschmitt Bf-110s, twin engines, twin tails. Heavy cannons designed to shred bombers. The Po-2 is not a bomber in their eyes. It is prey. Sabrova banks hard left, nearly brushing the tops of birch trees. The aircraft shudders as branches snap beneath the wheels. She cannot outrun them. She cannot outclimb them. She can only disappear. Behind her, another Po-2 from a regiment bursts into flame under cannon fire. The orange glare lights the night like a signal flare. For a fraction of a second, Sabrova sees a crew silhouetted inside before the aircraft pitches downward and vanishes beyond the tree line. No parachutes. The Bf-110 that scored the hit pulls up sharply, searching for the next target. Sabrova makes a decision. "Engine off," she says. Bilik nods. The sudden silence feels violent. The propeller slows, then stops. Wind replaces mechanical sound. The P-2 becomes a shadow sliding through darkness. One of the Messerschmitts overshoots, unable to reduce speed quickly enough. Its slipstream rocks the fragile biplane, but the German pilot loses visual contact in confusion of smoke and treetops. Fischer, leading the pursuit, recognizes a maneuver instantly. "They are gliding," he mutters to his radar operator. He throttles back, attempting to match their slow speed. It is a dangerous adjustment. The heavy Bf-110 was never meant to loiter at stall margins over uneven terrain. Radar becomes useless at such low altitude. Ground clutter floods the display. Fischer must rely on sight alone. Below him, Sabrova angles toward a shallow ravine that cuts across the steppe like a scar. She drops into it, wings nearly brushing the sloped earth. The moonlight disappears. Only darkness and instinct guide her. Bilik counts seconds. Now! Sabrova restarts the engine. The radio coughs once, twice, then catches. The sound echoes strangely inside the ravine, amplified and distorted. Fischer hears it. He dives. Cannon fire rips through the ravine walls, spraying dirt and rock. One round tears through Po-2's tailplane, splintering wood. The aircraft bucks violently. Sabrova fights the controls. The damaged tail vibrates with alarming force. Another hit, and they will break apart. Ahead, the ravine narrows. Too narrow. She pulls up sharply at the last second, clearing the edge by meters. The Po-2 claws into open air, wounded but airborne. Fischer follows, but the sudden climb forces him to overcorrect. His port engine coughs as he pushes throttle aggressively. For a moment, he teeters at the edge of aerodynamic stall. Sabrova sees an opportunity. She banks toward a thin layer of ground fog forming over a marshy field. The mist glows faintly in moonlight, offering concealment. "Hold on," she says. They descend into it. Fog swallows the aircraft. Visibility drops to almost nothing. Moisture beads on goggles. The world reduces to pale gray. Fischer circles above the mist, searching for movement. His fuel gauge creeps lower. Ammunition nearly expended. He considers blind firing into the fog, but rejects it. Wasteful, dangerous. Somewhere beneath him, the witches breathe in silence. Minutes pass. Finally, Fischer pulls away, climbing back toward the burning junction. The remaining Bf-110s regroup behind him. Below, Sabrova maintains a shallow glide within the fog until the engine's warmth begins to fade. She cannot remain here forever. Carefully, she eases the throttle forward. The engine responds. They climb gradually out of the mist, turning north toward their field. Behind them, the sound of pursuit fade. When the dirt strip comes into view, mechanics wave dim lanterns in prearranged patterns. One by one, surviving Po-2s land roughly, tires skidding over uneven ground. Sabrova touches down hard. The damaged tail scrapes, but holds. She cuts the engine and sits still for a moment, listening to her own heartbeat. Around her, empty spaces mark those who did not return. Major Brashansky walks the line, counting aircraft, faces tightening with each absence. Losses tonight are heavier than usual, yet the rail junction burns. Scouts confirm by dawn that traffic is halted indefinitely. Fuel columns delayed. Ammunition stranded. Strategic effect achieved. But victory carries weight. As the sun rises pale over the steppe, word arrives from headquarters. German command has elevated priority on eliminating the 588th. Additional night fighter squadrons are being reassigned to this sector. The witches are no longer a nuisance. They are a threat, and threats are hunted relentlessly. Sabrova looks east toward the front, where smoke still lingers on the horizon. She knows what this means. Tonight will not be easier. It will be worse. June 18, 1942. 1:12 hours. Southern front, north of the Manic River. 8 nights after the Saw strike, the sky feels different. German searchlight grids now overlap in disciplined geometry. Radar trucks reposition daily. Night fighter patrol patterns have tightened into coordinated boxes rather than reactive scrambles. Intelligence has circulated through Luftwaffe briefings. The 588th Night Bomber Regiment operates in trios, cuts engines before release, favors fuel depots and rail choke points. Predictability invites countermeasure. At the forward Soviet strip, Major Yevdokia Brzezinskaya gathers her pilots around a lantern-shielded map board. Her tone is clinical. Target: temporary fuel reservoir supporting armored units pushing toward Rostov. Camouflage but confirmed by reconnaissance. Expect layered flak and standing patrol. No dramatics, only data. Lieutenant Irina Sabrova traces the approach corridor with a gloved finger. River bend, windmill ruins, shallow marsh. She memorizes it, then steps back. Tonight, they will vary altitude profiles. 1 trio higher than usual to provoke radar acquisition. 2 trios low, exploiting terrain masking. Staggered timing to fracture German tracking continuity. Adaptation against adaptation. Engines start at 047. 6 Pa-2s lift into darkness. Fabric wings absorbing moonlight. The air is cooler than earlier in the month. Density slightly improved. Even so, their cruising speed remains painfully slow. 30 kilometers out, the first searchlight snap on. This time, they do not sweep randomly. They lock sectors methodically, creating luminous corridors designed to herd aircraft into pre-registered flak zones. Disciplined. Vera Bilik murmurs. Sabrova nods. The high trio climbs to 900 meters, intentionally visible. Within minutes, radar-guided searchlights capture them in a blinding cone. Flak burst bloom at calculated intervals, bracketing altitude and trajectory. The bait works. 2 Messerschmitt Bf 110s detach from patrol grid and pursue the illuminated trio. Below, Sabrova throttles back and drops to 150 meters, following the river's black ribbon. The water reflects faint starlight, enough to orient without silhouette exposure. Ahead, she sees it, a faint rectangular darkness inconsistent with surrounding fields. The fuel reservoir. Camouflage nets stretch across wooden frames. Trucks parked nearby. A perimeter trench with light machine gun positions. She signals Bilik. Engine cut. The familiar silence returns, but tension feels heavier tonight. German doctrine has evolved. They expect gliding attacks. Almost immediately, 2 searchlight beams sweep low across the river valley. They are hunting at her altitude. Bilik adjusts bomb release timing, compensating for stronger crosswind. The aircraft drifts slightly right. Sabrova corrects with subtle rudder input, careful not to overbank. A flare ignites from the ground, flooding the valley with harsh white light. Exposure. Machine gun tracers reach upward in erratic arcs. Release, Bilik commands. 4 bombs fall in rapid succession. The first detonates short, sending dirt skyward. The second punches through camouflage netting. The third and fourth strike true, penetrating fuel drums stacked beneath tarpaulins. A delayed, concussive roar follows. Flame erupts vertically, tearing through netting and igniting adjacent stores. Secondary explosions ripple outward, trucks flipping as fuel vapor ignites. Sabrova restarts the engine instantly, but this time the Germans are faster. A Bf 110 dives from cloud cover directly ahead, anticipating escape vector along the river. Cannon flashes illuminate its nose. Rounds tear through the Pa-2's lower wing, fabric shredding like paper. The aircraft lurches violently left. Sabrova fights to maintain lift. Airspeed dangerously low. Structural integrity compromised. Altitude. Bilik warns. They are losing it. Sabrova banks toward the marsh identified during briefing. Ground fog gathers there again, thicker tonight. The Messerschmitt closes distance, disciplined, patient. Short control bursts rather than reckless sprays. Another hit slams into the fuselage behind Bilik's seat, with splinters. Fabric flaps wildly in slipstream. Sabrova makes a calculated risk. She climbs abruptly, trading precious speed for angle. forcing the heavier fighter to pitch up sharply to maintain firing solution. The Bf-110 follows, but its momentum carries it slightly above their line. In that fraction of misalignment, Sabrova cuts throttle and rolls hard right, dropping into a near-stall descent. The P-2 falls rather than flies. The German pilot overshoots again, unable to decelerate quickly without stalling twin engines. Sabrova restarts mid-descent. The engine coughs, hesitates. Too long. The ground rises rapidly. Bilic grips the cockpit rim. The engine catches. Barely. They level out meters above marsh reeds, skimming into fog that swallows them whole. Inside the mist, Sabrova reduces throttle to minimum sustainable power. Any louder and condensation patterns might reveal motion. Above, the Bf-110 circles once, then twice. Fuel state low after extended patrol. Command doctrine discourages blind pursuit into fog at low altitude after recent losses. Reluctantly, the fighter disengages. Minutes stretch. Sabrova keeps course by compass alone until the river bends northward. Only then does she allow herself to breathe fully. When they reach the strip, only 3 of 6 Po-2s return. The high trio absorbed relentless flak. 1 destroyed. 1 forced landing behind Soviet lines. 1 missing entirely. Major Brashansky records losses without visible emotion. Intelligence confirms the fuel reservoir is annihilated. German armored pushed toward Rostov stalls for lack of supply. Operational tempo disrupted at critical phase. Strategic success. Tactical cost rising. As dawn spreads thin light across the steppe, reports arrive that Luftwaffe Command has assigned an experienced ace specifically to counter the regiment's methods. Name: Oberleutnant Karl Fischer. Dedicated pursuit authority granted. Sabrova hears it in silence. The hunt has become personal, and professionals do not relent. June 25, 1942, 23:03 hours. Luftwaffe Forward Airfield, south of Rostov. Oberleutnant Karl Fischer stands beneath the wing of his Messerschmitt Bf-110, studying a reconnaissance photograph clipped to a wooden board. The image shows a narrow Soviet landing strip carved into open steppe. 16 aircraft silhouettes identified. Light defenses. Minimal camouflage. The 588th Night Bomber Regiment. His orders are explicit. Do not wait for interception over target zones. Strike the source. Catch them on departure or return when fuel is low and options limited. Preemption instead of pursuit. Fischer folds the photograph and hands it to his radar operator. We hunt near their nest. Engines start at 2240. 2 Bf-110s lift into darkness, climbing to 2,000 meters before turning east. They cut navigation lights early, silhouettes dissolving into night. On the Soviet strip, Major Yevdokia Brashansky conducts a shorter briefing than usual. Intelligence reports increased German night fighter activity. Routes will be altered. Altitude changes unpredictable. Return vector staggered. Lieutenant Irina Sabrova feels the tension in the air even before takeoff. Losses over the past week have narrowed smiles, shortened conversations. Engines cough alive. Po-2s roll one after another into the dark. Fischer spots them sooner than expected. Tiny shapes lifting against faint horizon glow. He signals his wingman and reduces throttle, allowing the slower aircraft to climb into open sky before engaging. Patience. Sabrova levels at 600 meters, turning toward a signed rail spur west of the Don. She does not know she is already being watched. Radar contact stabilizes. 2 kilometers. Above them, the operator whispers. Fischer descends gradually, careful not to silhouette against the stars. He intends to strike when they are committed to climb, heavy with bombs. At 23:18, he fires. The first burst shreds the trailing Po-2's upper wing. It snaps instantly, aircraft tumbling without flame. No time for reaction. Sabrova jerks her head toward the flash. Surprise hits like cold water. The Germans are not waiting near targets. They are here. Break, she shouts. The formation scatters in every direction, abandoning neat trios. Fischer selects his next target, Sabrova's aircraft. He dives, cannons flashing again. Rounds tear through fabric along her left wing route. The Po-2 shudders violently. She banks hard right, dropping altitude in a spiral. Bullock grips her seat as wind howls past open cockpit. Another Po-2 attempts to draw Fisher off, climbing directly into his path. He ignores it. Focused, he fires short, disciplined bursts, adjusting lead for slower speed. With splinters from Sabrova's fuselage, she understands the shift. He has studied them. Engine cut will not save her now. He is already within visual range. Instead, she does the opposite. Throttle full. The radial engine screams beyond comfortable limits. The fragile airframe vibrates dangerously as she pushes the aircraft toward maximum speed, shallow diving to build momentum. The Bf-110 closes steadily. Twin engines superior. Cannons ready. Sabrova banks toward a cluster of low clouds forming above uneven terrain. If she can force him lower, into turbulence, perhaps the heavier fighter will hesitate. Fisher follows without pause. Inside the cloud layer, visibility collapses. Moisture streaks across both canopies. Sabrova flies by instinct and partial instrument reading, trusting the compass and the feel of airflow against struts. Fisher relies on radar and intermittent visual flashes. Distance shrinking. He fires blind through mist. One round strikes the Po-2's fuel line. The engine sputters violently. Sabrova feels power fading. Not here. She pushes nose down sharply, exiting cloud base in a sudden clear air only meters above ground. The step rushes upward, terrifyingly close. Fisher emerges seconds later, surprised by altitude loss. He corrects aggressively, but the Bf-110's weight punishes low-level maneuvering. Sabrova zigzags unpredictably, exploiting her aircraft's absurd maneuverability at low speed. She threads between scattered farm structures, schemes above a windmill ruin, then drops into a shallow depression invisible from above. Fisher attempts to mirror the path. A moment too late. His port wing clips rising ground during a tight correction. The aircraft lurches violently. Stabilizer damaged. Warning lights flash. Engine vibration increases. He pulls up hard, barely clearing the terrain. The Bf-110 shudders, compromised but airborne. Sabrova sees him climb away, wounded but intact. She restarts her faltering engine with desperate precision. It coughs, then resumes uneven rhythm. Fuel leaking but manageable for short duration. Behind her, only 3 Po-2s remain in the sky. The attack mission is aborted. Survival first. They return to base separately, landing under strict blackout. Mechanics swarm Sabrova's aircraft, hands tracing bullet holes, inspecting leaking lines. Major Brashanskia listens to reports in silence. The Germans have shifted doctrine, direct interdiction. Fisher lands his airfield with structural damage but no loss. His superiors commend the aggressive strike. 1 confirmed kill, several damaged. Yet he feels no satisfaction. The one he targeted escaped. And now both sides understand something critical. The battlefield has narrowed from vast front to intimate duel, and the next encounter will not be accidental. July 2nd, 1942, 0:26 hours. Steppe corridor west of the Don River. The air is heavy with heat, even at midnight. Distant artillery flickers along the horizon, brief pulses of orange that mark shifting lines below. Both sides are advancing, withdrawing, reforming. The front is fluid, but tonight, movement in the sky is deliberate. Major Yevdokia Brashanskia has altered procedures again. No cluster departures. No predictable corridors. Single aircraft launches at staggered intervals, each assigned a slightly different ingress vector toward the same rail bridge spanning a shallow ravine. The bridge is critical. German armor columns rely on it for continuous supply towards Stalingrad. Lieutenant Irina Sabrova lifts off alone. No formation lights. No companion aircraft in peripheral vision. Only darkness and the low vibration of the Shvetsov engine. Vera Belix sits behind her, methodical as always, double-checking fuses by touch. They know Fisher will anticipate patterns. So tonight there are none. 20 kilometers west, Oberleutnant Karl Fischer circles at 1,800 meters. His damaged Bf-110 has been repaired. Reinforced wing spars. New calibration on cannons. He has studied every recorded engagement. He understands a Po-2's strengths. low speed control, glide silence, terrain masking. He adjusts accordingly. Instead of diving immediately, he waits. Radar operator scans methodically. Single contact. Bearing 095. Low. Fisher resists the instinct to attack. If others follow on offset vectors, premature engagement will alert them. He tracks silently, maintaining altitude advantage. Below, Sabrova follows a dry riverbed toward the ravine. She senses something different. No random searchlights. No scattered flak bursts. The night feels restrained. Disciplined. Balik whispers. Too quiet. Sabrova nods slightly. At 041, the rail bridge emerges ahead, a dark horizontal line against paler terrain. Guard posts at both ends. Light flak positioned on embankments. She reduces throttle gradually, planning a shallow glide approach. Above, Fisher finally commits. He dives steeply but cuts throttle midway, minimizing engine signature. He intends to intercept during glide phase when the Po-2 is most predictable. Sabrova cuts engine. Silence. The Po-2 drifts toward release point. Then tracers erupt from above rather than below. Balik reacts first. Hi! Sabrova shoves the nose down instinctively, abandoning precise bomb run. Cannon rounds slice through empty air where they would have been seconds later. Fisher anticipated the glide corridor exactly. He fires again, adjusting lead for dive speed. One round punches through the Po-2's upper wing. Fabric tears violently, lift compromised. The aircraft rolls left. Sabrova counters with full opposite rudder, fighting asymmetric drag. Altitude falling rapidly. Balik faces a choice. Complete bombing run or prioritize survival. She pulls release. Bombs fall off target, striking near embankment rather than central span. Explosions flare, damaging rail lines but not collapsing structure. Fisher closes distance for a finishing pass. Sabrova does something he has not yet seen. Instead of dropping lower, she climbs. The damaged wing struggles, but she converts dive speed into a sharp upward spiral. The Po-2 groans under stress it was never designed to bear. Fisher follows, confident the fragile aircraft cannot sustain climb. Halfway through spiral ascent, Sabrova cuts throttle abruptly. The sudden loss of prop wash destabilizes airflow over damaged wing. The Po-2 snaps into an incipient spin. Controlled. Intentional. They rotate downward unpredictably, fabric fluttering violently. Fisher hesitates for a fraction. A spinning target complicates ballistic solution. He adjusts angle to compensate. That hesitation costs him. Sabrova recovers from spin mere meters above ravine slope, leveling out inside the depression that parallels the rail line. The terrain shields her from immediate fire. Fisher dives to reacquire, but the ravine walls create blind angles. Radar clutter intensifies at low altitude. He overshoots the depression. Sabrova throttles up again, following the ravine's curvature away from bridge. The engine sputters briefly from fuel slosh, then stabilizes. Above, Fisher climbs to reset position. He sees something else on radar. Additional contacts. 3 more Po-2s approaching from divergent vectors. Brzezinski's true plan unfolds. Sabrova was decoy. While Fisher committed fully to a single pursuit, staggered aircraft slipped through alternative corridors. At 048, synchronized explosions erupt along the bridge's central supports. Multiple impacts. Structural compromise. Fisher banks hard toward the bridge, abandoning Sabrova. His priority shifts to asset protection. Too late. A deep, resonant crack echoes across the steppe as central span collapses into ravine, rails twisting downward in sparks and dust. Supply artery severed. Sabrova climbs out of the ravine at safe distance, circling once a confirmed collapse. Even damaged, her aircraft holds. Fisher fires at one of the departing Po-2s, scoring minor hits but failing to destroy it. Ammunition low, fuel margin narrowing. He watches the burning wreckage of the bridge below. Strategic loss. Sabrova turns east, engine rough but functioning. For the first time, Fisher understands fully. He is not facing reckless nuisance flyers. He is confronting adaptive tacticians who exploit his own aggression. Back at the Soviet strip, Brzezinski accounts returning aircraft. 4 or 5 land successfully. Damage extensive. Casualties avoided. Operational objective achieved. As dawn approaches, reconnaissance confirms armored columns halted at destroyed crossing. Repair estimate, minimum 72 hours. Critical delay. Sabrova steps down from her battered Po-2 and looks at the rising sun. The duel is no longer about single kills or isolated escapes. It is about tempo, about forcing the opponent into reaction instead of control. Fisher stands beside his aircraft hours later, studying fresh reconnaissance photographs of the collapsed bridge. He circles a new sector on the map. Adaptation continues. The sky remains contested, and neither side intends to yield it. July 10, 1942, 1:03 hours. Approaches to Stalingrad. The front has hardened. What was once fluid maneuver across open steppe is becoming compression. Supply lines converge toward the Volga. Rail corridors multiply in importance. Every bridge, depot, and fuel yard carries disproportionate weight. The 588th Night Bomber Regiment now flies almost without pause. Multiple sorties per night. Minimal rest cycles. Aircraft patched repeatedly with canvas, plywood, wire. Fatigue accumulates invisibly. Lieutenant Irina Sabrova feels it most in her hands. Micro tremors during pre-flight checks. She compensates by slowing each movement, verifying every control surface twice. Major Yevdokia Bershanskia modifies deployment structure again. Rotational stagger. False radio chatter. Dummy takeoffs using single aircraft circling repeatedly to simulate larger launch. Deception layered over exhaustion. Oberleutnant Carl Fischer has also adjusted. He no longer chases individual aircraft deep into terrain traps. Instead, he establishes overlapping patrol boxes west of likely targets, coordinating with flat commanders to create vertical kill corridors. His objective has shifted from pursuit to attrition. Force cumulative losses. At 1:17, Sabrova lifts off on her second sortie of the night. Target: temporary artillery concentration north of a rail yard feeding Stalingrad's western perimeter. Visibility is limited by smoke drifting from distant industrial fires. The city already burns in sectors. She flies at 400 meters, neither fully low nor exposed high. Radar contact registers. Fisher observes 2 separate returns, offset laterally by several kilometers. He predicts convergence near artillery site. Instead of diving immediately, he positions above midpoint, anticipating crossing paths. Sabrova hears distant flak before she sees muzzle flashes. German gunners have improved coordination with fighter patrols. Searchlights do not snap randomly now. They open in synchronized arcs. A cone locks onto another to her right. Fisher descends decisively and destroys in a single disciplined burst. Sabrova registers the explosion in peripheral vision, but does not look directly. Emotional processing is deferred. She cuts engine earlier than usual, extending glide beyond predicted intercept window. Balik adjusts release calculations on the fly, compensating for longer drift and variable crosswind. Below, artillery crews scramble, aware of pattern yet unable to eliminate it fully. Bombs fall. 2 land directly within gun emplacement cluster. Secondary detonations suggest ammunition cache involvement. Mission objective partially achieved. But Fisher has already reacquired her silhouette against smoke-reflected glow from Stalingrad's outskirts. He approaches from low rear quarter, minimizing visual detection. Sabrova restarts engine. The response is sluggish. She realizes with sharp clarity that cumulative was eroding mechanical reliability. The engine catches unevenly. Fisher fires. Rounds tear through rear fuselage, severing control cables. The Po-2 jolts violently, elevator response reduced. Balik shouts damage assessment over engine noise. Sabrova tests control inputs. Pitch authority limited but functional within narrow envelope. She banks toward a wide smoke plume rising from industrial district along the Volga. Thermal updrafts distort airflow unpredictably. Risk high for fragile aircraft. Fisher hesitates only briefly before following. Inside the smoke column, visibility collapses into orange haze. Turbulence intensifies. The Two bucks violently as hot air pockets lift one wing unexpectedly. Sabrova rides the instability instead of resisting it, allowing erratic motion to complicate firing solution. Fisher struggles to maintain stable platform for cannons. Instruments flicker under heat stress. He fires blind once. No confirmation. Sabrova dives through lower boundary of smoke, emerging near ground level above fragmented industrial outskirts. Rubble, skeletal steel frames, burning warehouses. Urban terrain replaces open steppe. She weaves between chimney stacks and shattered walls, exploiting tight turning radius impossible for heavier fighter without severe risk. Fisher attempts one pass at low altitude, but aborts when anti-aircraft from German ground units begins firing indiscriminately into smoke. Unaware of exact positions, friendly fire risk increases. He climbs out, circling perimeter instead. Sabrova escapes into darker sector beyond city glow, engine sputtering but intact enough for return. Back at base, maintenance crews work under lantern light. Aircraft count continues to shrink. Replacement airframes slow to arrive. Training pipeline accelerated, but inexperienced crews show higher casualty rates. Attrition is no longer abstract. It is arithmetic. Brzezinski studies loss reports. The regiment remains operationally effective, but margin narrows nightly. Fisher submits his own assessment. Confirmed kills rising. Yet infrastructure damage inflicted by the regiment persists at unacceptable levels. Rail delays compound. Artillery disruptions frequent. Neither side achieves decisive suppression. The conflict has stabilized into grinding exchange. On July 12th, reconnaissance photographs reveal Stalingrad's industrial district burning continuously. Smoke columns visible from 50 kilometers. Sabrova stands beside her aircraft before the next launch, fingertips resting briefly on patched fuselage. She knows its limits intimately now, where wood has been reinforced, where fabric is weakest. Across the lines, Fisher tightens his harness before takeoff, reviewing predicted approach corridors with mathematical precision. They no longer seek dramatic confrontation. They seek incremental advantage. Every sortie carries probability curves of survival and impact. Every decision adjusts those curves slightly. The sky over Stalingrad grows crowded with fire, smoke, tracer arcs, and exhausted calculation. Attrition advances quietly, and both understand that endurance, not single brilliance, will decide what remains standing when the smoke finally clears.